The morning light spread over Dusty Creek, touching the golden plains and glinting off the fences of the Hawthorne Ranch. Caleb Hawthorne rose before the sun as always, a tall man with quiet eyes and shoulders broad from years of work. He had known hard seasons, droughts, and loss, but the worst had been the fever that took his wife 6 years ago, leaving him alone with his daughter, Ellie. She was 10 now, full of laughter and questions he often struggled to answer. He'd taught her to ride, to mend tack, to read the clouds for rain. But the one thing he couldn't teach her was what it meant to grow up with a mother's warmth. Sometimes, when she played in the yard, her giggle would echo too brightly against the silence, and Caleb's heart would ache for what she'd never know. That morning, Ellie ran to him, breathless and smiling, her braids bouncing. "Papa, Miss Claire says there's a school social this Saturday. You gotta come." Caleb gave a quiet chuckle. "A social, huh? Ain't exactly my sort of place." "Please, Papa," she begged, her small hand tugging at his sleeve. "It's for families. Everyone's going." He wanted to say no, he always did. Crowds weren't for him. But the look in her eyes softened him and he said, "We'll see, Pumpkin." Later that afternoon, as he fixed a broken gate, he heard the rumble of a wagon. He turned to see a woman step down, her dress dusty, her hat pulled low but not enough to hide the soft determination in her eyes. "Mr. Hawthorne," she called. "Name's Claire Alden. I teach at the schoolhouse." Caleb wiped his hands. "Ah, Ellie's teacher. What brings you out this far?" She smiled lightly. "A matter of persuasion." He frowned. "That's so. The school social," she explained. "Ellie said you weren't coming. I thought maybe you'd reconsider if I offered to keep you company." Her tone was easy, teasing, but her gaze was steady. "Just one evening. You can be my date for a day." Caleb blinked, caught off guard by her boldness. "Miss Alden, I don't much recall how to be anyone's date." She smiled wider. "Then I'll teach you." And before he could say another word, she tipped her hat, climbed back into her wagon, and called, "Saturday at 7. Don't make me send Ellie after you." He watched her ride away, dust rising in her wake, and for the first time in years, something stirred in him that wasn't loneliness. When Saturday came, he stood outside the schoolhouse feeling as though he didn't belong. He wore his best coat, brushed his hair, even polished his boots. Laughter spilled through the open doors, the sound of fiddles and stomping feet making him both nervous and curious. Inside, Ellie spotted him and squealed, "Papa, you came." She hugged him tight, and that alone made the trip worth it. Then he saw Claire. She stood by the punch bowl, her hair soft in the lantern light, her smile calm and kind. She met his gaze and said, "You came after all." He nodded. "Couldn't let you face all this alone." "Good," she said, "because I saved you a dance." The first song was awkward, his boots were heavy, his hands unsure, but she laughed, guiding him gently. By the second song, he relaxed. By the third, he was smiling. When the tune ended, a loud voice broke the moment. "Well, look who's here," sneered Elias Grant, a neighboring rancher known for his arrogance. "Didn't think the Hawthorne man ever left his cows." Caleb's jaw tightened, but before he could reply, Claire turned to Elias, her tone calm but sharp. "That's funny, Mr. Grant. Some men measure worth by land. Others by character. I suppose we all know which matters more." The room went quiet for a moment before soft laughter spread, and Elias muttered something before stalking off. Caleb looked at her, half in awe. "You didn't have to do that." "I know," she said. "But I wanted to." After the music ended, he walked her to her wagon beneath the stars. The air was cool, filled with the sound of crickets. "You know," she said softly, "Ellie talks about you every day. She says you make the best flapjacks in the territory." He chuckled. "Guess she's my best critic." Claire looked at him then, her expression unreadable. "You're a good man, Caleb Hawthorne. You should let more people see it." He shifted, unsure what to say. "I don't much know how anymore." "Then start small," she said. "Start with tonight." She left him standing there, heart beating faster than it had in years. Over the next few months, Claire came by often, always with a reason. School papers, extra books for Ellie, but she stayed long after her errands were done. Sometimes they shared coffee on the porch. Sometimes she read to Ellie while Caleb worked nearby, pretending not to watch. Slowly, life at the ranch began to feel lighter, filled with laughter again. Then one summer afternoon, a storm broke over Dusty Creek. Word spread that one of the schoolboys, Tommy Miller, had gone missing near the river. Caleb saddled his horse without thinking. "Stay here," he told Claire. But she mounted up beside him. "He's one of mine. I'm coming." The rain lashed down as they searched, shouting the boy's name through the roar of thunder. Finally, Caleb spotted a small figure clinging to a branch over the swollen current. Without hesitation, he plunged into the river, fighting the current until he reached the boy and hauled him to safety. Claire ran to them, wrapping the trembling child in her shawl. She looked at Caleb, mud-covered, soaked, shaking, but alive. "You could have died," she whispered. He managed a weak smile. "Wouldn't be the first time I took a risk worth taking." In that moment, something passed between them, unspoken but certain. Days later, a letter arrived for Claire, a new teaching post in another county. Better pay. A newer schoolhouse. She came to the ranch to tell them goodbye. Ellie cried and clung to her, begging her not to go. Caleb stood on the porch, his heart heavy. "You'll be missed," he said quietly. "You've done more for this ranch than you know." Claire smiled sadly. "You've done more for me than you realize." She turned to leave, but he stepped forward. "Claire," he said, his voice low, raw. "You could stay. There's work here, a school close by. Ellie loves you." His words faltered. She met his gaze. "Say it, Caleb." He swallowed hard. "I don't want you to go." Her eyes glistened, but she smiled faintly. "Then don't let me." She didn't leave that night. And when the next morning's sun rose over the hills, it found Claire standing on the porch, coffee in hand, the smell of fresh bread drifting from the kitchen. Caleb stepped out, his arm brushing hers. Neither spoke, but they didn't need to. The silence between them wasn't empty anymore. It was full, warm, alive. Weeks turned into months. The people of Dusty Creek began to talk. How the quiet rancher had started smiling again. How the schoolteacher seemed to glow brighter each day. Then came autumn and the harvest dance. Lanterns hung from the rafters, fiddles played, and Ellie twirled in her new blue dress while her father stood waiting by the door. Claire found him there, her smile shy but sure. "Still remember the steps?" she teased. "Only if you're Leah Din," he said, offering his hand. They danced as if the rest of the world had vanished. Two hearts that had found their way out of loneliness. When the music faded, Ellie ran to them, laughing. "See, Papa. You just needed someone to ask you to be their date." Caleb chuckled, pulling both of them close. Came for one day had found a home that would last a lifetime.